Okay, on today's video, we're going to talk about increasing your results on your PPC campaigns by using what are called user personas. If you are watching this video, you probably already have heard of at least or know what user personas are. But if not, I'm going to go through or just give you my opinion on what a user persona is and how that applies to your PPC campaigns, but more importantly, how that applies to how much money you're making with those PPC campaigns that you're running now or will run in the future, how it will apply and why they're very important. A lot of times decide whether you're going to make any money with your campaigns at all or not in terms of profit after all expenses, which we always got to always think about. So, and this isn't going to be a bunch of theories. If you watched my videos before, you know I give real world examples of how to use the information that and advice I'm giving you here, as well as give you some case studies about how this exact thing has worked before, where I've used it before in my last 15 years of experience doing PPC campaigns, running hundreds of different campaigns before, where it's came up in the past. So I eat my own dog food here. I do what I'm telling you to do. Therefore, I have the right to be able to tell you what, you could do this stuff because I'm not guessing if it works. I know it works. So anyway, with all that said, prelude over, let's get into the meat of this video. So what are user personas and why do they matter to PPC? Okay. User personas, another way to, I always like to keep things simple on these videos, as you know. A user persona is just a different type of buyer. Different people buy for different reasons. That may not be the answer or definition, I should say, you get on Google, but to simplify this as much as possible, if you sold, let's say everybody knows diet products out there. If you sold a diet product, you have there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people buy that product, but the main things are, and you could split it up. There might be 50 different types of customers that buy for different reasons. But two examples that would be more kind of two different way or one different distinct way that you could split that up so that your customers aren't just packaged into one big ball so you're marketing to everybody the same way, which is what using PPC and user personas together is about. A guy will want to lose weight. Why? Because he wants chicks. Because chicks don't like fat guys for the most part, okay? Two, on the flip side of that then, what you're always looking for is what's the other side. You may not even market to the other side because it's not that profitable, which is what part of what's great about user persona, focusing on user personas is about, by the way. But on the flip side, it's the women buy because they're trying to, they want to get guys. In America, it's more about, from what I've studied, they're insecure and they're insecure about what other women are making them think. And it's a competition between other women more than trying to get the guy, even though it's some of both. And when you are trying to figure out, all you're doing is you're splitting up different messages for different people. And that's just one way to split that particular market up. But when you do that, you have to understand the psychology behind each of the ways that you're splitting it up. Otherwise, the splitting it up is useless or pointless. And so you figure out what one wants more than the other one, and so that you could change your ads, your landing page. So basically what they see, your copy, your images that they see to sell more to each distinctive group. So overall, you're getting more bang out of your buck from your advertising. And a lot of that has to do with actual user psychology. People like Google advertising has made advertising easy for like the average Joe or the dummy who really don't know much about marketing. Marketing is half math, but half is it's consumer psychology. And a good analogy for that is there's a marketing consultant who was first by trade a psychologist, and he understood and he consults to laundromats, and he said the reason the reason why he studied, because you're trying to get down to the bottom base reason why people are motivated to do certain things and then therefore buy certain things. And then you want, if you can, because if you can get down to that level with your consumer and therefore your user profile here or persona here, you'll have the most success that you can have possible. So in a laundromat, why don't people, he said, doing the research and thinking about it, why don't people actually go, the most money that the laundromats make is the big, large washing machines. Because they're like $3 to $4, $5 to wash stuff in there. And then you could delay, so there's two reasons why you would do it. You would delay doing your laundry till every piece of laundry you have is dirty, so you could communicate that, so you identify that and you explain, you could get all your laundry done in 30 minutes with our huge washer. Okay, that's one thing. But two, they also wash their bedding in it. But they realize, so how do you get people to come in and wash their bedding more often? The main reason it's not about sometimes what will get somebody to buy, but you identify what causes them not to buy. And you eliminate that fear for the person by giving them a valid excuse, which removes all friction to get them to buy, which is the other way you could flip this. In the bedding situation, people, they don't want to, so they're afraid of what has been researched and found, that if you go to, people are thinking that if they go wash their bedspread, that they may not have their bedspread when they go to bed that night because it takes too long as well. And that goes all the way back to childhood. A lot of stuff that people think and their fears and their motivations go back to their childhood and how their childhood was shaped how they think. And they don't want to not have their blankie, as weird as that sounds, that was the base psychology there. So you want to dig down and get to the base level here. And they just said also, so they know without saying anything about a blankie, that if you actually tell people, again, with that, you can wash your bedspread and you'll guaranteed have it back before, such and such time, then without saying it, it eliminates that barrier to entry for that person, and they get more of it, for that user persona of what people use the laundromat for. A lot of times they'll have a washer, but then they'll use it for the bedspread because it can't fit that into their washer. You get the idea there. So anyway, you got an example of user personas, how you market to them, all of that stuff. So you got to get good in understanding user psychology if you want to do this well. Anyway, besides all that, here's just a baseline kind of formula that you can do this for yourself based upon the main variables that are out there and some examples to go along with it so you understand how you can do this for yourself. Now, there's two basic categories of business out there, right, in markets. There's business to business, where you're selling to businesses, and then consumers, where you're selling to end consumers, right? Even if you're selling to businesses, as many people say, people overcomplicate this, you're really selling to people still. It's just a person that has the mindset and are buying for purposes for that business, but it's a lot more based upon what they want than the business wants at the end of the day. So therefore, this user persona stuff is highly valuable in selling anything to a business, because you get down to the core foundation of what that person wants, this user psychology behind it, and therefore you can have a great amount of success doing that if you sell to businesses now using this more so than even what you can do breaking up into segments what you'd sell to a consumer, and I'll explain why. So if you're selling to a business, there's two subcategories that you're breaking things down to, generally speaking. The influencer, the person who influences the boss. Hey boss, if we bought this tool, we would need half as many people to do this necessary process over here. Can we buy it? I've done the research on this and I'm telling them to buy it. Or the boss tells me that look into XYZ. I look into it, I narrow it down to one, and then I influence the boss and say, hey, this is what I recommend. It's a little bit more, but da. So you have the influencer to market to, and then decision maker. Most people that sell businesses already know this. I'm getting into the bulk here of this now. So what you say to the influencer is way, way different than what convinces the decision maker to buy, okay? Totally different motivations. Now this gets into the case study portion here. We sold an advertising tool, okay? The influencer here is the marketing manager. There's the person that's going to decide who buys without being the end decision maker who can rubber stamp it. Then you also have the CFO/owner, depending on the size of the company, that actually signs off on it. Sometimes if the company's small enough, it's not the marketing manager because there basically isn't one, or they don't trust the marketing manager enough. Basically, depending on the size of the company, the owner will let certain size purchases go through without them. And so if you're a big enough company, the product could go through with just the marketing manager by themselves. So there's different kind of ways that things would happen, but in general, most of the time, it was the marketing manager that was in charge of either coming up with the idea of researching this themselves, like I said before, or the owner told them to investigate it and try to figure out, because they've heard of this or thought of this might be a good solution for us, investigate it. Okay, now for the marketing manager, doing these digging into the consumer psychology side of things, like I was explaining to you before, what you'll need to do, we found that if you speak to more on a technical level, technical language, which makes obvious sense, right, about how this tool actually works, how it works, how you're going to use it, and the features of that individual tool is what gets that person's attention more, for obvious reasons. If they're half of what they're doing is just doing research on the market, and if that's what I'm doing there, I want to know how the tool works, okay? First and foremost. So if we could split the traffic up somehow, which is possible, which I'll explain how we did it in a moment, and we can tell that person more so how it works, and knowing that they can understand it versus the owner that just flies over his head, we could sell more to this person because they're going to skip over it saying, oh, there's not enough information here, I'll go to somebody else's site, which is what this is always about. Sell more than what you could otherwise, trying to have something that would try to serve both parties equally, which, you know, they say in business, if you don't specialize and you try to be everybody, well, now you aren't appealing to anybody, right? This applies to this as a good analogy to this, what we're doing here. So anyway, a phrase to sum this up, and this is beautiful here. Everybody says it's like, trying to think of what the original saying here was. But basically, how we described this tool as one of the catchphrases was, it's the Salesforce of content marketing platforms. Okay. So why? Because somebody who's the marketing manager, or therefore the influencer, going back up to what I told you before here again, they are trying to. There is a saying that nobody gets fired for hiring IBM. So even if IBM screws up, you're not going to get fired for that, because any rational person would have chose the IBM versus the no-name company. That's why big companies get bigger. Well, why not say the IBM of XYZ when trying to pitch a marketing or business solution to the influencer? Because that's ultimately what they're thinking. And even though they're not thinking that gets down to what their core psychology is. So we use that language. Not exactly like that, but similar to that, okay? Without giving it away exactly. But you get the idea there. So how did we target them individually, okay? It came down to age. You'll have to figure out from your different personas how they differ. And if you don't know how they differ, and we're going back into the consumer side here. For the business side, this is pretty typical. But on the consumer side, there's what you call data expansion companies, where you could take a list of your customers that you know are from one cohort and another cohort, and they'll expand the data and say, you know, are they high school graduate? Are they parent, not parent, that kind of thing, so that you know how to split it up. You got to find a way, and because there's in Google Ads, same as a lot of other ad platforms, but particularly with Google Ads, it's great. There's so many different ways to sub-segment. You could bid on a keyword but you could say they must have these 3 traits. I don't want the ad to show up for them. And if they have these 3 other traits, so I want this other ad, which links to another landing page to show up from. That's how you split this up. So you got to have a key trait where you're splitting people down the middle. And if you want to, and in this case, if you're trying to do influencer and business owner, which is one way to split things up, well, then now you got to have a way to that clearly one category has that the other doesn't have to make all this work. So 25 to 45 was the typical age range of the technical buyer, the influencer, and 45 plus was the CFO / owner. Okay, you guys selling to businesses already know this. Anyway, with that said, so then the CFO owner would see a different ad, which links to a different landing page. That landing page talks and not only talks about, but focuses way more, mostly focuses on the other competitors that they have in their market that already uses this, because they're going to say, if they're using it, it must work. That's how I know how these owners think, especially in the marketing field. Second, we use language about ROI. Get a 300% ROI in, most users get this much ROI in this much time. They don't like lofty, trying to think of the word, like feathery, talk. They want specifics here too. Otherwise they're just doubting, well, maybe it won't work for me. So most users get XYZ result in XYZ time because they're thinking, okay, results, but how long? So you don't want to leave questions to people to their own devices to answer things like that. The more of it you do, the less conversion rate you get. And so the key phrase there to sum up, whereas before it was the Salesforce of content marketing platforms, this one is already used by okay? So that's how we split it up to two different, there's the 2 different user personas. Before, the company, when I first started working with them, had just mixed everything together before I got there. What do you think the difference was here? And obviously part of this is going to be done, due to better copywriting in general. Not very few people focus enough on that. They don't hire a high-power copywriter to write their copy on their landing pages. They think, oh, why would I pay $5,000 to write the words on the page? I can tell you, it matters everything. A lot of times you're going to literally waste half your money if you have average crappy copywriting on your page. But between the copywriting and just being able to split this up, over 300% boost in the ROI versus trying to mix everything together, say one thing for everybody, given that we don't know if it's owner or marketing manager, particularly that because of the size of the company, a lot of time there wasn't a marketing manager. You get that campaign to work better. So that's a great example of user personas, how you're going to use user personas in your business if you're a business-to-business sales company to your advantage with your PPC campaigns and how you actually do it. So in Google Ads, you just have one campaign that excludes 25 to 45, one that doesn't, you're done, okay? Different ad, different landing page for each. Pretty self-explanatory then. Hopefully you understand. Now that said, if we're selling to individual consumers, not businesses, okay? We either, there are many different ways to split it up, but to categorize it and to sum it up as much as possible, we have use cases. So like in the dieting example, so basically you have different reasons to buy. The example I gave before is the second one, psychographics, where you have, psychographic is more of a demographics here, but a use case would be like, I'm going to lose weight for my college reunion. I'm going to lose weight because of a wedding came up. Those are the two. You always want to do the bigger ones, right? Because if you're going to waste time making an ad and a landing page for something, there better be a significant chunk of my market share that's out there that it fits into this category, or it's not really worth my time. Or at least we're going to start with the biggest ones if we're going to do any of it. So because even the small ones can make a huge difference and therefore it's worth it. But start with the biggest segments you can. So that would be how you break it down by use case, and then you just talk obviously on the ad and the landing page about how great for losing 15 pounds prior to a wedding where you got to do it in less than 8 weeks. versus don't have perfect for, don't let your, as terrible as this is, don't let people at your college reunion judge you. That would be one way to get somebody in that particular case to respond better or more. But that case, so that in that example though I just gave, it's difficult to split your ads that way up. You can by using the keyword. If they're typing in a keyword and anywhere in the keyword it says call reunion in it, you have your ad show up for that. And maybe they're not using like diet product for class reunion. It's not going to be that literal, but diet plus reunion, looking for general information. Now our ad could show up. Now, that's an opportunity to actually make an even higher ROI because nobody's doing that, bidding on that ad space. And because your ad is in landing pages so dialed in, it actually gets their attention, whereas a generic product ad layer wouldn't. So that's use cases. Psychographics would just be, so I should have put psychographics, demographics here. So basically how that person is different themselves. What is their age? How is that different? Their gender. I gave the male versus female one before for the diet product. And sometimes in the male, obviously, there's lots of different male buyers. So you could sub-segment it beyond just male if you want, which you could certainly do once you've done the main ones. But below that, you can sub-segment and then sub-segment again and keep going as far as you like. So I gave it an example there for demographics. So psychographics, though, would be like family or a not a family. So it's other traits other than what they were born with that makes them different. If they're a family, maybe on my landing page, if I'm promoting a travel or a vacation package, I put on there pictures related to bringing my whole family along, us happy as a family. Whereas if it's not, they don't have kids yet, you focus on you and your sweetheart. And that makes a big difference. And I've seen people do that before as well, which is why I brought the example up. In the travel space, that is a very good one. So that's an example of these psychographic, demographic versus use cases here, okay? Now, I'm going to give you some examples of the B2C, business to consumer sales, where you can use these use cases to improve your results. By how much? So the first one is in the funeral space. I mentioned on other videos before, one thing that people greatly underestimate is people that are older, they have a hard time typing because they weren't born with computers, and they have a hard time seeing. You get to marketing to older people, you better have your font over 12 point if you want it to be read easily. So just because you, the young web developer, can read it doesn't mean everybody can read it, okay? So in the funeral space, for funeral planning, people that were 65 plus, we had a whole different landing page which had much bigger font. That in itself raised the ROI 25%, whereas under 65 just went to the regular page. So that's a simple example of how you can increase your ROI with just little action, okay? Generally, less thinking involved is less results. Not always, but so, you may have to get more creative and want more results, or like I said before, you don't have to stick with just one thing. Once you've done that, well, what's another way we can break this down? And so you'll have another way to break this down, maybe male versus female, and you'll do that under 0.65. So if they're over 65 female, they'll see this ad landing page. If they're over 65 male, they'll see this added landing page. If they're under 65 male, they'll see this added landing page. If they're under 65 female, they'll see this added landing page. And you just keep going with it and decide where you want to stop. Obviously, when you plateau or start to even off in terms of the gains you're getting, you'll say good enough, whatever. That's what I usually do. But anyway, that's an example. Second example is a clothing brand. This is another very simple example here. So I gave a very sophisticated example kind of before. This is simple here. Clothing brand. So for you e-commerce people out here, so this isn't just for lead generation campaigns. If you have a clothing brand, you sell to different people, particularly male versus female. For one, female, it's known in the clothing industry or fashion industry. If you have a fashion brand that sells to male and female, the female's way a majority of all the money that's made in that particular company and market. Why? Because women have like 10 times more reason to buy clothes than men. Men, it's more function. Females, it's more. There's a lot more emotion there involved, so on and so forth. Anyway, so if the person's female, first of all, we can spend a lot more for female, knowing that if they're looking for burgundy t-shirt, which wasn't the key word we bid on here, but they are, we want to spend 3 times as much for that consumer than if it's male, because it's the person's willing to and more statistically likely to buy more and be worth more. But more so than that, we're talking about user personas here. So we'll just directly send that person to the part of the site that has the female shirt. So if they're looking for a burgundy shirt here, we're sending them to the burgundy shirts for females, assuming we have burgundy shirts for males and females. And then obviously you can send male to the male page. And you're saying to yourself, Corey, what difference does it make? We have male and female on the same page, they can find what they find, or they can easily get to the navigation and find what they find. Any teeny tiny little bit of inconvenience you provide people is going to add more friction. More friction you have, the worse your conversion rates, the worse your ROI. You would be surprised how little it takes to hurt your conversion rates. We're talking the smallest things. And if you don't believe me and don't understand this, you need to read the book, Don't Make Me Think. The more you make the user think, the less you're going to make. Simply put, it's your goal running PPC and online marketing in general is how do I make the user think so little to the point where it's just like they want to buy because you basically made them, it's like they're looking for a reason not to buy. Oh, I can't find a buy. Versus, I wonder if it does this. I got to look for this. I wonder if it does this. I got to look for this. Are they local? How do I know they're really local? All these other questions. So you've got to figure out what that user's thinking, and then you have to be able to, what I call, drain the objections. And your goal is to drain the objections as quickly as possible with as little effort as possible. So if you send them directly to a female shirts page, they don't have to wonder what to click on. So and that there's a delicate balance on a landing page. Any landing page you take them to, e-commerce, non-e-commerce, whatever, you want enough information to provide all the stuff that they're going to need to know that they need to have right away, but not more than that or significantly more than that, because then it starts to get in the way and hinder your results. So you got to figure out perhaps what 80% of people want and focus on that, and then exclude the other 20%, because if you add the other 20%, the 80% gets alienated more. To give you an example of how this give and take works. And what a perfect way to deal with that, by the way, is the 20% of people who want more information that you don't want to throw away, you provide links to secondary resources where they can get that information. You provide the high level of what most people want, and then you do not skimp on providing more information if more than 10% of people want that information. You just don't put it on that same page, okay? That's how most of the pros are doing it to get the most results, by the way. So anyway, that's a general idea of how that can be done. Okay, so similar to on the demographic psychographics thing again, we had a divorce attorney, and anybody who, the psychology in that space is, I'm trying to get back at my husband or wife. I want to be on the side of a male or female attorney. So the divorce attorney had male and female attorneys. If you say, like justice for men, male divorce attorney, guess what? You probably already know the results are a lot higher than if you just say divorce attorney. Same on the flip side. There's actual attorneys who just specialize in this because it makes such a difference. They're just dealing with women or just dealing with men. Well, if you can deal with both, or even if you are a male, you could say, once to pick up the phone, you could tell what campaign they responded to, because there's technology to do that, and I won't get into it here. You could say, yeah, we work with women all the time, And it's one of the things that we mainly specialize in, which technically it's true, and you spin it that way. But to do that, so that the saying that you're a specialize in women's in defending women for divorce, and the flip side for men, you're basically, we're riding both sides of the fence. The 30% ROI difference there just by simply making that one simple change. So 30% more money, that's all you had to do. That's just on the cost per lead and on that side. Whereas I see ROI, I know what the average value per lead was. I'm pretty sure that actually converts better to sale as well. You'll identify that once they do on any of this stuff, and it would be in your case as well. When you've pre-qualified them up front more using these user personas, they're going to convert more once you've gotten that lead already. So technically, it's ROI, assuming that the lead has the same value across the board as it did. So I never actually looked at the lead all the way to sale and how that backed out. So I'm pretty sure that's 30% is low. It's got to be more closer to 50 to 100% there. I didn't mention before the clothing brand where we did that, where we just sent male to male, female to female there, custom ad, so that, so we did custom bidding for female versus male, but also custom ad that says females, clothing. Even though they typed in maroon shirt, the ad now can say what you want to do, female maroon shirt. So they didn't search for female, but it's in the ad, and we know they're female because of how we're targeting the ads in the ad settings. And we had a campaign just for female. That got a 40% increase, over 40% increase in the ROI on that one. Which again, if you generate leads, you're going to get more than 40% because the lead to sale rate is different. But that one actually was an e-commerce brand. So the 40% ROI, that's more accurate in that case. So with all that said, yes, all these examples are in the demographic, psychographic situation. I didn't actually give you any more use case example where, like in the beginning, I talked about how it can be for diet product or just midway through the video for people that are going to buy diet product for pre-wedding or the class reunion. That's something that's a little bit harder to do, and like I said, it usually has to be done at the keyword level if you're going to do it. You can also do it at the audience level, which audience you're targeting for display campaigns, but I do that very, very rarely, but it just gives you some ideas of what you can do and how the simple stuff even can make a big difference on your campaigns. So anyway, and I also obviously gave you, I guess the family, non-family. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself and don't need to do this. I covered everything, I think, here pretty well. That all said, hope you enjoyed the video. I have a lot of other different money-making PPC strategies on this channel. If you like this video, you can go ahead and see a lot of other videos that I have, over 200 videos now, different stuff that can make you money with PPC. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, which has step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that work, in which give you more in-depth information on how to build campaigns like I do it here to guarantee our clients' results. And if you have any questions or comments, leave me a comment down below. I'll get back to everybody who leaves me a comment or question on this channel and can answer, going beyond anything I discussed here on the user personas you think I should have covered and didn't. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this certainly goes into making you more money from your PPC campaigns and or are successful with the PPC you're about to start out to do for your company soon.